Okay, hello. My name is Bahia Ayos, and today I'm going to explain a
Va,
section of
otra
a
vez.
short film that
Acción.
I'm working on. So I'm just going to,
Acción.
explain and show all the artistic options that I decided to use, why I use these options, and yeah, basically a little bit of that. So
El
without
chef no
further ado,
falta.
let's get into it. So first of all, we see, as you may be seeing, a guy who's basically holding a conversation, but we're just going to focus on the guy shots because I
Acción.
consider the other shots to be redundant when explaining them. Mainly because I use the same like framing. So I'm using a medium shot here because it's we're holding a conversation, and in this case, this is the very first time you know, he talks with this girl. So they are not very intimate. That's why I'm not going to use a closer shot, and it's kind of a
Ya.
relaxing. However, because it's supposed to be a relaxing scene, I decided to use cooler tones. And just in general, in this short film, I decided to use cooler tones because basically all these things that appear in all the shots and all the phrases that I said is a build up for the final. And the final is the ending. It's very I'd say I want it to be impressive. I want it to be to surprise. And however, if you are going to do a plot twist or whatever, you first have to leave some hints for the viewer. Because just leave a ending out of the blue that it's just going to confuse the viewer. However, I want the viewer to take part, into the film and to actually feel the urge or like the need to pay attention to the film. To go to find out what's going on, what is it going to lead to, and they start making up their theories and discussing. Basically, that's what art should do. To move, to question beliefs. So yeah, that's the first step. To basically say, hey, something bad is going on. So that's why I decided to use apart from a cooler tones, and that was possible thanks uh, to Film Converter, which is basically an editing software for color and lighting. I was also went for a very curious white balance. Went for a very white, paper whites. And basically, I went for this decision because when you picture yourself, at a hospital, what you see around you? White. So basically, I just want to make like this connection. So, like, I want the viewer to feel like there's something wrong going on, to never assume anything that's going on for the ending, basically. So yeah, I went for cooler tones and also for very white whites and very dark blacks. And however, in general, in all my pieces of work, I'm very fond of contrast. I just think it's a beautiful tool to add dramatism, and it just it's kind of a personal mm, I would say personal iron watermark or signature or whatever. However, I still want to explore more styles. Okay, so once we get into the following shot, we observe that we are just in a closer shot. This is basically because this part of the conversation, so as to understand what's truly going on, we need to understand what's going on the character's head. we need to understand his feelings, as he's the one who is, explaining and narrating the film. He's our main character. So that's why I decided to go for a closer shot, because you are just going to appreciate his gestures and his um yes, his face movements. So okay, so moving on to the next scene or sequence, we stumble upon a this guy that's entered to his house, with her, and I used like a detail shot. I went for this basically because it's more melancholic in my opinion, because it kind of dehumanizes the person and the action, like it's something routinary. Then when he enters, we see that the camera is kind of imitating his eyes and what he sees, because uh, basically I went for a blurry image, and then I cleared it up and focused on what he had to focus. And basically, he's observing that the his mother's jacket is not there. So okay, this section, well, how do we know this? That he's, taking a look at that. Well, first of all, from the very beginning of this short film, in other scenes, I make it very obvious that this guy has autism, and autist people kind of live in their own world and don't really understand some human behavior, some codes that we have. So basically, he witnessed his parents having a row that he didn't understand anything. But once he came back from school the following day and saw that his mother's jacket wasn't there, that was her mother actually, um, grabbed the jacket before leaving home. And that's something that normally doesn't happen unless she's not home, and that never happens. He realized what was going on, what he witnessed the other day, and that's why I tilted the camera, to give this kind of vertigo, this kind of unsettling feel, this, and it's like, oh no, this just happened to me, like this feeling of surprise, this feeling like, this can't be happening. Okay, so and then he enters his room, and then I decide to, after this moment of tension, what normally happens is that the following shot is a relieving shot. However, I wanted to play with this, and when it appears that, all this tension is over, we move the camera abruptly, like out of the blue. We follow his staring, and we turn around and we see this girl staring at him. And I decided to add another tension um, element, after this tension moment, because it's just not as expected. Primarily, since well, since, as far as I know, um, all these films films work with contrast, and these beliefs are, in the viewer's mind. So we have to kind of play with all the prejudice that's on the viewer's mind to surprise them, and to make basically our short or film more effective. So after that moment, I just focused on the hat once again, to make this to basically give the sense that um that it has like a a plot, like it has all a meaning, like it's all tied up, um to put the same shot in the end that was showcased in the beginning. It's like this has a narrative thread. So that's why I decided to use that. And after that, I will put a black screen, a total dark screen, because it's just so unsettling, so confusing for the viewer, but in a good way. Because I will want the viewer to be confused now, so as to start questioning things now, in this very moment, not in the end. Because in the end, you just want to give your conclusion. You want to say to the viewer, okay, that was what happened. If you are going for, a a ending, that's not open. I'm going for a closed ending, and because this short film that I made is about mental illness and perception, and what it is doesn't seem to be, to have an even more confusing uh ending would be just too much and would be even too fictional. And in some moment of the film, the viewer has to kind of feel okay, like feel a connection with reality. I wouldn't say that it has to be relatable, but it has to be like wow, because it's something real, it's something that you link with reality. It's like more basically just impacts more the viewer, from what I've experienced at least. um so yeah, if I'm going for a very experimental short film, I would put a very like conclusive ending. However, I mean, it wouldn't be confusing. It just, I mean, in this case, what I've done is a kind of an experiment, because I put lots of shots together, and like symbolic images of flowers, of yellow flowers that are representing um, lies and all this kind of stuff, or everything with color. I'm always very, concerned about colors and what they, convey. So I just want to give a real ending, which is the guy taking his own life, and that's it. Like all these things that were going on in his head, yet they were very abstract. He was probably going nuts, but in the end, these actions leaded him to real consequences. And you just didn't expect this, all this, storm of ideas, of very rare thoughts to never, rip, to never come together, at least not in an abstract way. So to tie it all up in a very like realistic, impactful, and raw ending was, in my opinion, the best way to deal with it. And so yeah, that's basically a very quick summary of why I decided to use this or that. And I hope you enjoyed it. And well, I actually didn't use any script, any script whatsoever. Basically because I feel like it's more natural for me just to comment while I'm, watching my films and the images. I feel like it's much more, much more like myself, and that's why I want to join, right? So, well, thank you for listening to me again, and I'm looking forward to hear from you. To hear from you. Um, Good night.